and welcome to week 2 of our Wellness Challenge. Thank you for those who braved the cold and came out here to walk over or drive over and join us. So one thing I just found out yesterday is that we're doing a little switch on the schedule. Anna was unable to come today, so instead of mindful eating, we're just going to swap it, and Kathy today is doing protein and fats. Next week will be the truth about carbs, and then we'll just put the mindful eating at the very end, just so that you know that. Also, want to let everybody know that we ended with 20 teams and approximately 170 participants, so thank you and good job. Hopefully everything's going well in these first 2 weeks, drinking the water, eating those orange and green veggies, and getting lots of physical activity, whether it's strength or cardio. Also, I wanted to just mention, hopefully you did see the video. Where it's going to be is on our website, and then under Lunch and Learns each week there's a video and the recipe will be there too. And then I send that out to team captains. I'm sending out on Tuesdays this year just so that you have a couple days before the Lunch and Learns so that it's a reminder. Also, free activities. I've been asking at the Aquatic Center and Jackie and stuff, I don't think a lot of people have been participating in them, but it doesn't matter. Anytime, use that card and please enjoy some free activities. Other than that, I think that's it, unless there's questions to me about the challenge. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Kathy. Thank you again for coming this week, and we're going to learn about protein and fats.
Could it get any more exciting? Yeah. I also, before I start, I just wanted to mention, maybe you can, Val will flash it in front of the camera, the Living Your Best Weight program. So Anna, the one who will be here the dietitian who will be here the next 2 weeks, is running a program called Living Your Best Weight. It's a 3-session, starts February 9th, and registrations, the deadline is tomorrow, February 2nd, but if you're interested in it, I'm sure you can still sign up next week. So if are some couple of copies at the back, and Val is kindly scanning that, and we can post it up on the website too.
Very professional.
Okay. So today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about protein and fats, because we do hear a lot about protein and fats in the media, and kind of protein especially has become a big, are people getting enough protein, and include more protein and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to go through a little bit of information on that area. So essentially, protein is an essential nutrient. For anyone who has a kind of interest in science, you may know it's made up of what we call amino acids. So have people heard of amino acids before? Yeah. So there's 20 amino acids, and that's what makes up your proteins. When it comes to type of proteins, and we'll talk about those, some are complete, so they contain all 20 amino acids. And some are not complete. So there are 9 amino acids that are not found in a lot of the vegetable sources of protein. And those are the ones that we call essential, because your body can't produce them. Your body can't produce the other ones. So when we're talking about complete and incomplete, sometimes they're called essential and non-essential. But that's the difference with the proteins. As far as what protein does in the body, what do people think? Builds muscle. What other things would protein do in the body? Any other ideas? No? It does lots. So we always think about building muscle, but actually it's a major part of any cell in the body. So protein's really important. Also is a source of energy, right? So it actually protein provides the same amount of energy as an equal amount of carbohydrates. So it's an energy source as well. It also is an important component of skin, so as part of your cells. Also is important in building enzymes, hormones in your body, which are important in all of your body interactions. And very important for fighting infection, because protein is a component of antibodies. So for anyone who may have had at some point a wound that maybe wouldn't heal, the amount of protein in their diet is often increased to help with that. So it's very important for that. Also helps balance body fluids so that you have a good balance of what you need. Carries oxygen through the body, and also can help to make some of the vitamins that our body can make itself. So lots of functions of protein that we normally don't think about. Okay, so how much protein do we need? Anybody know? Yeah. It doesn't say on the food guide, sorry.
We can't cheat.
But good try. Actually, the food guide is designed to provide you with enough protein. If you're eating all the the recommended number of servings from each of the food groups, you're getting adequate protein. There's a formula that we use, so it's 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that's kind of the average amount of protein that people would need. Val's calculating in her head.
No, I'm not. I'm just repeating that again. So 0.8.
0.8 grams of protein, not of meat, of
right,
protein.
Times your weight.
Per kilogram of body weight. So if you were weighed 50 kilograms, you need a 50.8 times 0.8, which is 40. So you'd need 40 grams of protein in a day. So if you're 100 kilograms, you need double that. And that's just because there's a lot of turnover in the body with protein, so you do need a constant intake of that. There may be differences in protein requirements for athletes who are trying to build muscle or improve their performance. They may have a little bit higher protein requirements, and pregnant and breastfeeding women as well may have a little bit more, and children sometimes. But for the average adult, that's about the right amount, and that's what you get when you follow the guidelines in Canada's Food Guide. So, do you think you can get too much protein?
Yes.
Okay, Val, yes.
I don't know. I'm just taking a
You
guess.
can. It's normally we don't get too much protein in our diets unless you're really using a lot of like protein powders and stuff like that, which definitely you don't need. If you do have, if you are taking in too much protein, you're at risk of having gastrointestinal problems. It also can affect osteoporosis. It can affect your kidneys and maybe cause development of renal stones. So, but usually most people don't get to those kind of excesses unless they're taking supplements. Can you get not enough protein?
For sure.
Yeah. So if you don't get enough protein, you can have things like edema, your muscles don't develop well, dull skin, thin hair. It can also affect brain function and your gut and kidney function. It's more prevalent in children, so it's a syndrome called failure to thrive, and we don't necessarily see that a lot here in North America, but certainly in other countries where protein is something that is a lot harder to get in the diet, they would see that fairly often. I've seen it here too, but not quite the same. So yeah, protein's pretty important. So what are our best food sources of protein?
Fish.
Fish is good. And the recipe this week is Mediterranean fish, which I tried last night, by the way, and my husband thought it was good. And that was my goal, to find a recipe that the not-so-fish lovers in my family would enjoy, and he had 2 big helpings, so it must be all right. What other sources of protein?
Eggs.
Eggs,
Nuts.
nuts,
Seeds.
seeds, yeah.
But there's also protein. We often think that's the most common, to
Yeah.
think all your meats and your nuts and eggs and things like that. But there's lots of protein in other foods too, right?
Yes, particularly not so much in grains, although some grains like quinoa are a little bit higher in protein, and not so much in vegetables and fruits, but definitely legumes, so the beans, peas, lentils, milk products as well, so cheese, yogurt, milk, all have a fair bit of protein in them, so there you can get protein from those sources. The best sources of protein, or the ones that your body's going to utilize the best, are the animal sources of protein. So we hear a lot about eating more of a plant-based diet, and you can get all the protein you need from that, but you just have to be a little bit more careful and make sure you're having a good variety of things. So making sure you're having legumes and nuts because they provide different kinds of those amino acids, and so you need those in your diet as well to complement each other. Yeah. Any questions about protein?
So would this be too difficult without us having something here? Like, I'm just trying to think if we use that 50 kilogram weight person and we needed 40 grams of protein. Would you have, or like I was looking at the Canadian Food Guide, to figure out like how much, for example? So if we're gonna have a 4-ounce chicken breast, how much protein would be in that? Could we do approximately how many servings, what you would need?
For meats, so they're a higher source of protein, 1 ounce would have about 4 grams of protein.
Okay.
So if you had 10 ounces of meat in a day, you'd get those 40 grams. A glass of milk would have, like an 8-ounce glass of milk, is somewhere around that as well, around 4 ounces. So
It's around 4 grams
4 grams,
of
yeah.
protein in
Yeah.
an 8 ounce. Okay.
I'm not sure that's exact, but somewhere
Yeah,
in that
around.
range. And you can find lists of how much protein is in foods. I don't think I brought anything along that actually lists that, but you can find lists just so you can get an idea of where you're at. Like I say, for the most part, if you're following the food guide, whether it's actual meat or whether you're using the legumes and nuts, you're getting enough protein. Yeah. So does that help visually to kind of figure out what you need?
Okay, so another question. I'm always full of questions. So athletes, for example, there's big talk, right? To have that protein within 20 minutes of finishing whatever your cardio activity was. Truth in that about when you eat the protein's important, or does that matter?
Yeah, it seems to be better if you're getting the protein fairly soon after the activity,
Okay.
in combination with carbohydrates, because you're
Right.
trying to replenish the stores and build muscle. Because every time you exercise, you're basically breaking down muscle. Then you have to give it a chance to heal and build up some more. So then you add more muscle that way.
Right, so it should be a protein carb
Or-
combination
yeah.
shortly after physical activity.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world if you can't do it within that time frame. You know, it's not always possible, but yeah, it is good to try and get it as soon as possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions about protein before we go on to fats? Okay. So, with fats, are fats good for you or bad for you? We all need some, right? So they're good and bad. Lots of times fat presentations, it's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's different types of fats. So, first of all are the monounsaturated fats, which are some of the best fats for us. And it's found in things like oil, olives, canola, non-hydrogenated margarines. Sorry, I keep moving this.
No, it's good.
Anyway, try. Avocados, nuts. So those are all good sources of the monounsaturated fats. And these fats we're talking about, when we're talking about them being healthier or less healthy, for the most part, it's to do with heart disease, because that seems to be one of the chronic diseases that is most affected by the type of fat in our diet. Then there's the polyunsaturated fats, and they're also found in a lot of animal type products, but also in fatty fish are good sources. And one of the polyunsaturated fats that probably you've heard of before is the omega-3s. Everyone heard omega-3 fats? And that's one that tends to be low in our diets, and so it's good if we can increase that. And that's found in fatty fish, so salmon, mackerel, trout, herring, sardines are also found in oils and some margarines. And lots of foods, or not lots, but some foods are supplemented. Like you've probably seen the omega-3 eggs on the shelves if you do grocery shopping. Sometimes it's supplemented in milk too, or in margarines, just to increase the total amount that's in there. Excuse me. And then there's the saturated fats, and those are classified as the bad. So saturated fats, basically they're found mostly in animal products. So all animal products will have some saturated fat in them, and they aren't as good for us. They seem to have increased cholesterol and have more negative effects on our body. So basically, if you're wanting to stay away from those, it's more like avoiding try not to eat butter or trim the fat off your meat. Don't fry a lot of foods, that kind of thing, and you'll be able to stay away from those. Oh, and the milk products too, using the lower fat milk, yogurt, and cheese. And they're also found, I think there was a question last week about coconut oils. Coconut oil is quite high in the saturated fats. It also does have a lot of the monounsaturated fats, and that's why it's one of the ones that is it's popular right now, and if you like the flavor and you don't use too much of it, it's fine. But it's not necessarily the best choice in terms of your heart, for sure. And trans fats, so they're the ugly. Doesn't really do anything good for you. It's basically formed when you hydrogenate a vegetable oil. So when you make it into a shortening or a hard margarine, you get these trans fats. And so they tend to increase your cholesterol, they lower your good cholesterol, which is not a good thing. So try and stay away from those. Mostly found in processed foods. So things like crackers and cookies, or if you're buying meals that are ready to go, a lot of times they'll have a lot of the trans fat in them as well. The meat type products that we talked about that have saturated fats, some of them have trans fats in them as well. The trans fats that are found naturally in foods aren't as bad for you as ones that are produced artificially. Any questions about it? Those are the 4 main types of fats. Any thoughts on those? Questions? No? Okay.
Are you going to touch on, so how much fat? Like,
Yes.
is there recommended? Okay.
That's nice.
Perfect. We think alike.
Val's got good questions. So, how much? Usually what we suggest is 2 to 3 tablespoons of fat in a day, added fats. So, you can't really measure, necessarily what's in your milk or what's on your meat. It's a little bit hard. But any margarine, butter, oil used in cooking, salad dressings, dipping sauces, that kind of thing that will have fat in them, 2 to 3 tablespoons in a day. So for some people, that's no problem. They don't use much more than that anyway. But for some people, they use quite a bit more. So that's kind of the recommended amount to stay with. And using the unsaturated ones, so the oils or the soft margarines, canola, corn, flaxseed, olive, peanut, soybean, sunflower, those are all good. You can use those. And staying away more from the hard fats, so butter, hard margarines, shortenings.
So hard margarine is different than soft margarine?
Yes. The harder it is, often it's because it's more hydrogenated, so it has more of the trans fat in there. Okay. So I think, so the adequate and inadequate intake. So can you get not enough fat? Like, can you be low in fat in your diet? Yeah, you can. Some people do that, and it affects growth. And it also, along with having too much, not getting enough, can increase your risk of chronic diseases. So probably 15 years ago, when the really low-fat craze started, we actually did see people who cut out so much fat in their diets that it affected them. So it is possible. What are the issues with having too much fat? Weight, yeah. That's one thing about fat. It's got a lot of calories. So I said protein has about 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9. So it's over twice as what we call energy dense. So you get a lot of extra calories from that. And it's easy to put it on or soak it into things. So that's something you want to watch for. The other thing, of course, with the fats is if you have too much, especially the saturated and trans fats, is your risk of chronic diseases. And usually referred to heart disease, but there's also certain cancers that you're at higher risk for if you're eating a lot of the fats. So, okay. So I think any questions about fats or the type of fats, what's better, what's not so good for you. Kind of tried to cover it in a nutshell. Another thing to keep in mind, I just thought of with nuts, because nuts are a good source of protein, they've got the healthy fats in them, but it's fat, so it's high calorie. And so, a handful of nuts for a snack is good. A bowl full, it just adds extra calories. It's not that they're bad for you, but it's lots of extra calories, so watch that. So again, I think, kind of the bottom line with proteins and fats is opting for more of a plant-based protein and fat sources. Not that you can't have meats, but the plant-based protein and fat sources are just a little bit better for you. And so it's good to experiment with and try different things. And that was, like, our recipes that we've been providing have been a lot more to do with the plant-based types of protein sources, other than today with fish. But that's another one that a lot of people have trouble, don't get as much, maybe don't care for it as much. So trying different things. So, and that is, any other questions from anybody? Good. Well, thank you guys for coming. And I guess hopefully we'll see some of you next week. Well, maybe I won't, but
Anna will.
I don't know.
Great.
So,
Thank
you have
you.
anything else, Val?
I can't think of any right now.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Kathy.